Welcome to the Community Collective podcast. I'm Johnny B. Good, the flip-flop agent, and I've partnered with the Davison Area Chamber of Commerce to bring you the stories that shape our local communities. In our third season, our focus is about connecting, learning, and celebrating the voices that make our communities unique. Join us during this third season as we engage in thoughtful conversations and insightful moments. This podcast is commercial-free and supported by both myself, my co-host, and our guests. We would be so appreciative if you could like, share, and subscribe as we continue having conversations that matter, and cannot thank you enough for taking the time to listen.
Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Community Collective Podcast. I am Travis Howell, the Executive Director of the Davison Area Chamber of Commerce. My co-host, Johnny B. Good, is out selling some homes today. So I am very lucky and excited to have our guest today. This is his second time joining us, and I think we have a lot of good information to share. So Matt Lobban, Davison Community Schools Superintendent. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Travis. How are you?
Good. Well, thank you for taking some time out of your day. I'm sure it's just getting busier as the school year is starting to wind down and you guys are preparing for summer and getting things ready for the next school year. So I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. It's an exciting time of year. We engage in all these celebrations for all the good stuff that's happened and the successes of the students, and anticipate the upcoming school year. So it is an extremely exciting time. Yeah. Good weather most of the time, and so people are out and enjoying it.
There's been so much going on this school year. I know just from my two kids and all that we've had going on with middle school and elementary, it has kept us busy. But it's been so many great experiences, and I know there's a lot more things going on in the schools. As I keep talking to some of the teachers when I'm picking my son up from school or anything like that. So, Matt, we'll jump right in. So, as we wrap up another academic year, could you share some of the standout achievements and milestones that Davison Community Schools has celebrated this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Forewarning, there's been a lot. As I reflected back on this whole year, it was an interesting, and we do this at commencements too. You try to highlight all the good things, but you go all the way back to July, and we started a relationship with but we continue a relationship with our law enforcement, and we engaged in an active shooter response drill at Central Elementary, which was critical, and that's something we're going to continue to do. We had the monumental hailstorm in July, and we sustained the most damage and improved a lot of areas in our district at the highest level in SEG history, which is our insurance carrier. So there was a silver lining in all that. We added an SRO to our middle school, and continuing with security, we added those new vestibules at Seipel and Gates Elementary, along with a large round of abatement at the high school. We began a direct admission program with the University of Michigan Flint. We implemented free breakfast and lunch to the whole district for our students, and that's been a success, along with hiring a new chef that'll improve the meal quality in our school buildings. Davison High School was recognized as a U.S. News top school in August. We implemented a new easy routing software for our buses where parents can track their students and see the schedules on there. And that's been beneficial. We had some things to work through there early on, but we're able to safely monitor where students are at and make sure they're getting home safely and to the right locations. In athletics, we had Coach Weingartz was named Detroit Lions High School Football Coach of the Week back in September and recognized at Ford Field. The post-pandemic, the Credit Union One opened back up their Cardinal Gallery and recognizing DHS and DAE student artwork, and that was a fun event. DTV had an extremely successful year. Back in the fall, we started with a couple of kids, Caleb Hirsch and Cooper Austin, were asked to speak on a panel for the Corporation of Public Broadcasting Conference, and they spoke about students in the broadcasting field, and that was amazing. We had our first ever Pile the Aisle toy drive, and we filled a bus full of toys to give away at Christmas time. We initiated an agreement with the Genesee Health System for a program called Hope Squad, which is going to be a peer-to-peer suicide prevention program. And we're hopeful about that. And the Alt Ed, their Alpacas group, which is a group of students who meet with the principal and kind of a leadership. They established themselves as a student council and a governing body at Alt Ed. And so that was a great improvement for the Alt Ed. The girls cross country team won their first ever Saginaw Valley League championship. The volleyball team had an undefeated regular season. The Cardinal football team went all the way to the semifinals. We had a number of, I think we had 3 all-state fall athletes. It was just an amazing fall season for sports, and that's always good for the community. That's always fun. Community Schools was recognized in the East Village magazine for academic excellence, and it just continues. In November, we've been doing the Kids First Award for a staff every board meeting. In November, we started a new one called the Cardinal Spirit Award, which is to recognize a non-staff, a volunteer from the community that has gone above and beyond in supporting the schools. And so that's been fun to recognize the amazing community members that are supporting schools. DTV also won they call it the Pacemaker Award, which is given to the best high school news program in the nation. Back in November, they were recognized for that. And Cami Abanash, she won an individual honorable mention for best sports story in the nation. We had a couple first couple divers, Isla Puzak, and from our girls swim and dive team, she qualified for the state finals, which was amazing, especially as we build our diving program there. And our students who support our athletes in the fall, they were recognized as the fan zone top student section. So that just continues to emphasize the support from the students and the community. We continued.
Yeah. Talk about excitement everywhere. It really is. I mean, you have sports, you have the leadership through alternative ed doing stuff. And I know the chamber's been very fortunate to partner with the Key Club on several things, as well as, I can't believe, and my kids ride the buses, and I see how the kind of the scan in, scan off has really changed. And it's nice for us as parents, especially when we have maybe a different family member picking up someone. But yeah, it is. And then the partnerships. So I'm really curious. Tell us a little bit more about some of these partnerships that the schools have going on with like you and Flint and everything like that. I mean, that sounds like an amazing opportunity for our students to not only continue their education in Davison, but gain some college experience as well.
But yeah, there's a lot of opportunities with our local colleges, whether it's the dual enrollment or the early college program. We just had last week, we had a celebration for one of our early college students. And to see these opportunities, and I spoke about that early on at the beginning when one of our first podcasts, and I spoke about it at the chamber meeting back in August, that creating these opportunities for our seniors, these meaningful opportunities in their senior year to help springboard them into that future, right? And giving them the opportunities to explore what that future can look like, and place-based learning and higher ed opportunities are a great way to do that. U of M Flint is also looking to increase the education pool here, right? Getting kids to pursue a career path and as teachers or in the education setting in another capacity. And so they're really exploring extending these early college opportunities for students that want to go into those fields. We also are looking at the medical field is a big one. And if anybody's been to the board meetings or looked at Michelle Edwards' chirp sheets that we put out, our HOSA program, which is the Health Occupation Student Association, it's the club for students that are going in the medical field. They've had a tremendous amount of success. I mean, they had like 25 students placed at the regional competition. Sydney Hall, who's a senior this year, for the second straight year, she qualified for the International Leadership Conference down in Houston, Texas. But that extended I think it was last week or a couple weeks ago. These health science students took their test, and we had 23 students that earned their medical assistant certificates and 10 students earned their patient care tech certs. So they can go right into the fields and start working and doing a lot of these jobs that are well beyond the standard high school diploma, which in itself is amazing. These kids are starting their careers off already well ahead. So continuing to expand those opportunities, as you mentioned, is definitely one of the priorities for us as we look to the future. And our students are seeing that success already.
Yeah. And I think I love that. I mean, as a parent, and my kids are younger, but seeing how many opportunities are really being offered to them, even at their young age. And then as a parent, you start seeing it's like, okay, there's even more as they get older and move further in school. But I will say the one thing that I have really enjoyed seeing, and as I talk to more people in the community, is the schools doing the Cardinal Spirit Award for those really good volunteers that are in our community, and maybe we know them, but I know they don't do it to get recognized, but the school is really finding a way to highlight the importance of getting people into schools to help out and to volunteer. And I know that is an amazing thing to see. And so I will say that's a great thing, I think, to really start. And then I know the artwork being placed at the credit union, I think credit union one, you said. And there's so many things that I feel Davison Schools is really starting to not only grow with student population, but grow in the influence in the community in so many different avenues.
Yeah, the Cardinal Spirit Award it's been a lot of fun. And you talk about hearing the stories. The last one of the last ones we've done, I remember was with Gary Minto. And if you've been to a Davison football game, or if you were at a Davison football game, the last 20, 30 years, Gary was the voice of the band boosters. And he announced, the marching band coming on the field. And so you could probably pick his voice out from that. But to hear Christy Flowers, principal at Disciple, talk about Gary's impact as a volunteer and coming into the building and being with his grandkids, and just the impact he had as a band booster is just one example of why we felt it was so important for us to recognize these people that, like you said, they're not doing it for the accolades. They're doing it out of their heart, and they feel compelled to give back to the schools and invest in, and they are essential. The whole community is essential for us to continue to have the success in the schools that we do.
Right. And I think that success leads into the group we're about to really celebrate is the graduating class. So with with graduation season upon us, could you tell us a little bit more about the graduating class of this year and kind of what unique qualities or accomplishments define this group of students?
I think this class will, for the last few years at commencements, we've always identified that these graduating classes have had to go through the pandemic, which is obviously circumstances that were far different than other classes have had to, right? And so they've had those challenges. They've had the disruption to schedules and all the quarantining. And so what I feel makes them unique is that they've had these challenges presented to them and they've overcome them. We got 362 students graduating this year, which is a good size class. And 60% of them will graduate with a 3.0 GPA or higher. Despite having gone through the pandemic and all those challenges, 60% have a 3.0 or higher, which is amazing. 50 of those have a 3.9 or higher. And so you obviously see a graduating group of students that is academically sound. But as I mentioned earlier, just a few, probably a third of the list of the accolades, they're talented in sports and in arts and in CTE programs. I mean, I mentioned the host of all the medical students. We also have our automotive program. They were just given the Ford Mustang by Ford, and Andy Mahalik and Miles Lukey have done a terrific job of continuing to grow that program with the oversight of Tom Oddie, who's our CTE director. They continue to expand that and provide new opportunities. You got Graph that helped with the change to the EV program, right? And so these students are growing in their capacity far beyond what we've done in the past into a much higher level. And that really is a testament, not just to the schools, but to the kids that we are serving. They are high quality, hardworking community members. And we're so proud to have the opportunity to teach them. And they are going to give back to our communities, I have no doubt, in ways that we can't even imagine. The alt ed, I mean, they got 39 June graduates. They had 12 kids that graduated early. They're going to be known. They have a tremendous number of artists, and they were featured in the Greater Flint Area Junior Art Show. I mentioned earlier the Alpacas, which is that leadership group. They were invited to the state capitol, and then they had a statewide leadership conference in Brighton. And one of our very own, Ava McAvoy, was selected to serve on the state's leadership council for that program. So it's just, we've got leaders, which we always want. You're right. We claim that there's something special. We believe in that Davison kids, when you graduate, there's something different about you in a positive way, that you're going to rise above the rest and that you're going to assert yourself as leaders. And that's what we have in this graduating class for sure.
I know I have been amazed when I've had the opportunity to be part of like the senior mock interviews, just talking to the kids and their experiences. Because I feel like we were there and you're interviewing kids that have different goals for when they finish. I know one kid I talked to really emphasized how much she loved the opportunity to do the construction trades and what was offered. And she was just talking about how they worked on learning how to do roofing. And then, but it was something her grandfather had been in the trade, and it's something she was able to take home and talk to him about and relate to him. But then you had another kid that really has a mission set on being a doctor. So it is. There's so many students, I feel, that through their education process here at Davison, they really get opportunities to figure out where they want to go next or what their goal is. And it's everything from going to the college or going to a career field that they've already been prepared for and having opportunities. And once again, as a parent, I am excited for my kids just to get those opportunities as well and experience them. It is. And you talk about the focus on the grades and how many kids are doing well. And I see that the teachers are caring from dealing with, the garden that they get to volunteer and just to get out of the classroom for a little bit and do something hands-on to, even going up there and talking to them at a sporting event. You can tell those kids want to be there celebrating their friends and having fun and making those memories. In fact, Davison's doing a really good job with so many different areas of creating leaders that will be back in our community or are currently in our community right now.
Yeah, we appreciate that. I mean, it's a testament to the greater community as well, right? And because to be able to put these students into places where they can have that extended learning experience, it takes community-based organizations and businesses to be willing and vulnerable to receive students and to invest in them. As you said, I mean, that's the whole goal, is for us to increase those opportunities, whether it's place-based learning as a co-op or dual enrolled in college. You mentioned the college visits. I know our freshmen are taking college visits here this week at the end of the week. We want to expose them to as many things that are out there as possible so that they can open their eyes and see, hey, here's all the different fields or the ways that I can use my talents to better the greater good, right? And that sometimes that's college and sometimes that's the trades. And sometimes students have to, get their feet under them and just do those general eds. And through a lot of different options, and especially in that 12th grade and that 11th grade year, we can hopefully help while they're still in these stages where they have a lot of supports, whether it's the family unit around them or the teachers and the counselors and staff. We can help put up some guardrails and steer these students in a positive direction that'll change the landscape for their life.
Yeah. So we've kind of touched on it a little bit, Matt. Could you share some more particular inspiring stories from this school year? Perhaps some students or teachers who really made a significant impact. And to be honest, I know it's probably hard to really think of it because I know the teachers are doing so much and they're really committed to the opportunities and just introducing students to so many new areas. And you've shared about so many of the leadership opportunities that these kids have experienced, going to Lansing, getting selected to go to these conferences like DTV. And so is there anything that really sticks out to you that you want to make sure is shared with the community? And yeah,
I think, yeah, and you're right. There is so many. That's why we do the kids first and this cardinal spirit of work, because every month there's story after story. You alluded to the garden. So I'll talk about like Pam Ruggiero and Ryan Kelsey there at the high school. environmental science teacher and Ryan's an art teacher. You wouldn't normally put those two together, maybe in terms of certification, but they both have a passion for the environment. And so they started that garden that's on the southeast corner of the high school. And it's a community garden with the students, and our food service is using some of the things that grow out of that to put into some meals and special treats here and there for that work. And there's about, I think, 20 other activities. The high school was recognized as a green school certificate of achievement. They call it the evergreen school level. And to hear the stories about Pam and Ryan and the impact on the students, because those, gardening and being outside and just having that community that's like-minded has an impact on students and gives them their why. I mean, they might not, like I said, I think in our last podcast, they might not have a strong desire to come to school because of Algebra 1. So everybody's got something that drives them to come to school. And for a lot of students, that club has become one. Caleb Gantz is our new instrumental music teacher. He stepped in some big shoes with Jim Schuster, and Caleb's done a great job and continuing to grow that program. And we're going to be moving that into the new Performing Arts Center. And so it's been great to see that transition and Caleb take the reins on and make it his own, but also honor the work that Jim's done. And in fact, Jim's come back and Jim's now teaching at our Han Intermediate. And so we've got just a fabulous instrumental and vocal music teaching staff to continue to grow our fine arts in that capacity. Raina Palso, Ben Montgomery. Raina's a teacher at the high school and Ben's a teacher at Central Elementary. They both made it to the state level for the state teacher of the year competition. If any of the parents or students have had experiences with Raina or Ben, they are 100% in committed to not only teaching the curriculum to students, but truly caring about students' understanding of their part in the world and connection to it, and just investing a tremendous amount of love and passion into students. And there's so many, I'm going to miss somebody, and I hope I don't offend anybody. I think of Marianne Stedry. She was recognized as Saginaw Valley League Teacher of the Year for the Davison High School. She's involved in so much with Quiz Bowl and the Anime Club. And again, she's one of those teachers that goes above and beyond and is always willing to create opportunities for students to connect to each other and connect to the school or in the greater community. And we're in that time of year, like we started this podcast off, where we're doing the celebrations. And one of the things that we're preparing for is the Teacher and Support Staff Persons of the Year that's put on by DEF and Marco and the Nemic Insurance. And we have the honor of reading through all of the nominations that students and other staff and parents submit for our teachers and support staff. And there's just countless examples that often go, unfortunately, unheard of unless we do these things like the Kids First Employee of the Month or the Cardinal Spirit, because there's so many people. I mean, like I mentioned earlier in the year, we've got 1,000 employees in our district, and those 1,000 employees are truly having a significant impact on the lives of so many. And we're grateful for that and for ours.
I really feel Davison Schools has become a destination for teachers and support staff from all over saying, hey, when there's an opportunity comes available, I want to apply for that. I want to be part of this school district that's growing and becoming more involved. But yeah, I think you're right, Matt. I think it's so hard to touch on each passion of every teacher and support staff throughout the district. But I think ultimately they're the ones that are making our kids really enjoy school and making a difference in them and really getting them motivated. I have a middle schooler, so I know what it's like to sometimes not be excited about school, but she'll come home and start talking about maybe a new book that they started reading. And we see how much she retained from that. And it's because the teacher made it fun and made it enjoyable for him. And I think that's just an example. And you shared so many too, that staff everywhere are trying to find a way to come to Davison Schools to be part of that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Travis.
Oh, you're good.
We can cut that part out.
Yeah. One thing that I know we're all excited about, and we've seen it for the past couple of years, is all of the construction and updates to the buildings. So what construction projects does Davison Schools have lined up for this summer? And how do these initiatives aim to prepare students for the next academic year?
Yeah, so we've got a number, especially at the high school campus, but I'm going to start with continuing that secure vestibule work that we did at Gates and Seiple. We're going to add secure entry vestibules at Thompson Elementary, Hill Elementary, and the Alt Ed. And so that work has already begun at Thompson and Hill. If you're parents of students there, you know that they've already started doing the foundation and concrete work there. And so we'll have those projects completed by the end of the summer. We're also moving over to the high school. We are going to be completely redoing the north, east, and most of the south site work around that building. So improving Elder Drive from right about where the auto shop is on the south, around that curve, which constantly gets beat up, especially in the winter. That whole east side, the parking lots, the drive, Elder Drive, right out to Clark Street. And then that whole north side, that I call it the grassy knoll, where a lot of people park during football games. And that's all going to be a parking lot. So that'll increase the amount of parking we have for events, as well as that'll be our staging area for our buses at the high school. So that'll get the buses off the roads and create better traffic flow, which is safer for students. And we're going to have a new we're going to have a new parent loop, which will be farther to the west down Clark Street and then longer, creating more space for cars to get off the road and stage for picking students up. Along with that comes new lighting all around the whole campus at the high school and Alt Ed and signage. So that'll help as we continue to try to create safe and secure entry and campuses for our students and staff. We also continue asbestos abatement at the high school. We have a couple wings, the social studies wing and the math wing, and then what will soon be the old auditorium. And then following that abatement, we will begin the remodel of the old auditorium into a new community room, fitness area, and wrestling room. So that'll be big, and that'll go on for hopefully only about a year as they remodel that starting this August. We also have a kitchen. We're going to be doing a complete kitchen remodel at the middle school. Next summer, we'll do one at Han. And so we're excited about that. I know the cooks are at the middle school upgrading that. And then, of course, the biggest one is going to be the finishing up of our Performing Arts Center. And so we're looking forward to that being completed here as we come back to school in the fall, and then holding a ribbon cutting ceremony in the fall and open house and showing the community the amazing work that's been done through the investment that they made. And so for all of our students, a lot of the focus has been on the safety and security. The Performing Arts Center is going to provide our art students a long due stage for them to be highlighted, because and placed, quite honestly, on a pedestal that they deserve, because our programs are top notch, and the new learning spaces that the vocal and instrumental musics are going to have is far better than what they've had to endure in the current spaces. And then you've got the auditorium is going to be amazing, as I think about having concerts there. And it's not just the high school, right? It's the elementary concerts and the dance recitals and plays through DSER, and it's the musical and the community events that take place. And it's just going to be a far more conducive spot to highlight the talents of those students. So we're looking forward to that. And then we're going to have other projects too. We have our projects that we do, because we have other projects that are outside of the bond scope that we need to do to continue to upgrade our infrastructure. And really that's through the site sinking fund monies. And so that's critical, right? If we've made all this investment into the district, and I say you and I, all of us are taxpayers, and that site sinking fund is critical to maintaining that investment. And so we utilize those funds to continue to do upgrades and remodels. And like we're seeing it all across the state, there's infrastructure failing. And so we're continuing to make those adjustments. People just don't see new sewer pipes and boilers and things like that, right? So
I think it's good for parents and residents to know that all of these projects are going on. And I mean, you can visually see the Performing Arts Center. Yeah, but you're right. You can't see that hidden infrastructure. That just makes things a little bit more efficient, make them more up to date. That way our students and staff have the best services possible. But Matt, we'll kind of wind up a little bit, and I think this part is perfect because early on in this, as we started talking, you mentioned, Davison High School was named one of the U.S. News top high schools. So as you look forward to the next school year, what are some goals and new initiatives that you're most excited about? And how do these plans further enhance the educational experience for our students?
Well, yeah, I mean, maintaining that status, right? The high school being one of the top. The other aspect I didn't get to is we had Hill, Gates, Seiple, and Central. Davison Middle School and Hahn were also recognized as top elementaries and middle schools. So, I mean, as we look towards the next year and years to come, it's how do you sustain that and improve on? And one of our tokens to success we firmly believe in is the curriculum is built in-house, the investment into the resources to support that curriculum, and the capacity and efficacy of our teachers. Hiring high quality teachers to provide instruction and build relationships, which is critical. And so our theme for next year is going to be continuing with the connections with our kids and each other, and also targeting the choices and the making choices. And I spoke about this a little bit about, coming out of the pandemic, we're gaining ground with reconnecting with each other, but it's evident that there is still quite a bit of trauma and damage in terms of relationships out in the community and in families and between the schools and community members. And we're going to continue to try to build that trust and reconnecting with our families and getting back to and improving on what those pre-pandemic relationships looked like. It's also, important for us to recognize the people that do the right thing and highlight the successes we're having, like we've spoke about during this podcast. I mentioned that at Ableist B equals C award, we just don't do this enough. That the media is filled with negativity, and social media and television and music, and you're out and about and you hear conversations, and it just seems like everything's so negative, and everybody's so easily quick to jump on holding people guilty before taking the time and trying to reach common ground and listen. We don't always have to agree, but let's take the time and hear each other out. And so the best way we found about doing that is through our choice to not react the same way that the world seems to be encouraging. And so we're going to focus on this fighting back with a different rhetoric and choosing a different route than maybe what the world's doing right now. And hopefully that stems from the schools and infiltrates into our community. And like you mentioned, we're a destination district, not just because of the schools, although I'd be remiss if I didn't say that was a big part of it, right? You mentioned Johnny's out selling houses, and I know that's a point of pride for people coming here, but it is the greater community that we've always taken pride in, that Davison's a special place. It's a large, in terms of population, community, but it still has that small town feel. And for us to maintain and sustain that, we've got to get back to focusing on each other first and foremost. And that's a long-term goal. But we're also, as we look towards next year, Travis, we're obviously excited about opening the Performing Arts Center. That's been a long time coming. I'm excited about completing the bond work. Next summer we'll complete the vast lion's share of all that work. But we still have, like I mentioned, more things to improve on with our site sinking fund. I got to go for a renewal. So next May of 25, that'll be on the ballot for a no-mill renewal. So we're hoping our community will continue to support us through that. And so we can maintain the investment that they've made and continue to work on the safety and security for our students and staff and that infrastructure renovations. We're excited about continuing, for students, continuing to improve on our curriculum and that instruction. We got new curriculum for ELA. And we're going to have a new science curriculum coordinator who's going to help us with, you hear about STEM, and I call it STEAM because I like to add art in there, but, improving those instructional and curricular opportunities for our students so that we continue to build on all these experiences that we provided and hopefully we sit back and watch the success that these students take, because it just seems like you give the kids the opportunity and they just take it to a whole nother level, honestly.
Good. Yeah, Matt, thank you so much. I know you're busy. been a great school year. I know all the teams are counting down the days, but thank you for taking some time on the Community Collective podcast just to give us some more updates